I'm with Tim Warner. He's from Finjan, and he's the sales director in the UK country manager.
That's right.
Do you manage a country?
Yeah, apparently, but...
My goodness. Now, last week we reported about Finjan's finding about 1.9 million computers around the world in this big botnet swarm. And so Tim's actually going to tell us more about this.
The botnet's actually quite unusual for a few reasons. The first one of those would be, we actually managed to see the command and control server for the botnet, and there were 1.93 million infected machines actually in that database that were infected by it. And if you compare that with something like Configure that has been reported on in the last few months, all of the numbers from Configure are actually estimates. No one actually knows exactly how big it is, whereas this particular one, we actually could see the database of how many machines are actually infected. So that's the first one. It's one of the largest known infected botnets ever found. It was being administrated by 6 people based in the Ukraine. We've passed all the details on to the authorities to obviously shut that down. And it was growing at a quite alarming rate. Those users were coming on. We found it in February, and we saw 400,000 users, for example, in only 2 weeks that were infected on it. The other second quite unique thing about it was that what the owners of it were doing, they aren't actually infecting people or doing it for their own gain directly from the people. They were using it as an asset to sell on. Okay, so most people think botnet, and the first thing that fly through their heads are, ooh, spam, ooh, DDoS attacks. But that's only a couple of things that you could do. This particular botnet, it would allow you to keylog everything that the user was putting in. It could do screenshots of everything that was on the screen. You could upload any new software you wanted onto it. You pretty much could own the machine, do anything you want to. And what the people were doing with this asset were then slicing it up and reselling it for maybe $50, $100 for 1,000 machines. So basically you could rent or buy 1,000 or 10,000 machines of this botnet to do. Yes, you could do things like DDoS and spam, but you could also do anything you wanted to. You could put a keylogger on there. You could basically look for credit card details, keylog everything out. Now, for a corporate environment, this is quite nasty because, in theory, why don't I try and attack you rather than the system? You're easier to attack as a user than the system is. Brute force attacks against Oracle servers, SQL servers, firewalls, things like that are quite difficult. But if I can get an endpoint in your organization on the client and keylog everything you're doing, I can then extract information from that. So let's just search in all these keylogging strokes for everything that says password or login. And now I can build a picture of everything that you as a user can see, every system you can see. Because I can update new software in that, means I can send new software in there and say, okay, now I'm going to pretend to be Tim and access all the systems Tim can access. That pretty much puts any system open to attack. They can come in there and get data that would break Data Protection Act, data that would break PCI compliance, data that would break HIPAA or SOX. So any kind of data that you might think of, they can then access as the user and take out. Now, the other obvious one on it is if you've got 1.9 million machines and you can update all of those, can you imagine what would happen if someone did decide to send a virus in or a worm and you had 1.9 million start points? I mean, obviously mind-boggling, but that actual asset, as it were, one of the reasons it is so large is because of the automation techniques that they're now doing and how they can automatically grow these botnets very quickly to huge numbers. And we're finding there's a different mentality out there. The majority of people that we're talking to, unfortunately, still think of crimeware as a virus. But it's not. If you think about a virus, specifically a virus that was written 8, 9, 10 years ago, the big famous ones like I Love You, Anna Kournikova, Sazza Slam, all those sort of things, they pretty much mostly were pushed via email. And that the virus was written in a way that the users didn't care whether they got found or not. The person writing it wanted that fame. They wanted to be the top 10 virus for April 09, for example. That's what was pushing them. But someone writing crimeware is actually 180 degrees opposite, and they're writing the crimeware from a perspective that they don't want you to find it's on a machine. They want to get it there, keep it as stealthy as possible, leave it for as long as possible to steal whatever data they want, or just use the machine. And that's a different thing.
Now, one of the interesting statistics about this attack was the top 2 infected countries were the US and the UK.
That's right.
I think the UK was about 7%, is that right?
Something like that, yeah. And there was 45% in America from memory.
But we're the UK, so 7% of 1.9 million, call it 10%.
There was 114,000 separate infections in the UK.
Okay. So what does that say? How much of that was just like the man in the house and you know, family computer?
We've actually got the
corporate?
breakdown. I can send you the press release forward so you can put it along with this interview.
Right.
But we've actually broken it down into the different types of corporate users and
In
areas.
the UK?
In the UK.
Just the UK?
Yes.
So what percentage of the 7% is corporates and government? Can you remember? Or?
There were 6 government agencies in the UK. There were 73 overall that were actually infected. In terms of businesses, I would estimate from the numbers I've seen, probably 20 or 30% of the actual machines were business machines.
And of that, would you estimate large corporates or small SMEs?
A complete mix.
Complete
mix. That's the thing.
Well, that's quite frightening then, isn't it? Really.
That's the thing about this type of code. When the person writing the crime is sending it out, they're using a pull model, not a push model. So. First of all, they're infecting a legitimate website. It doesn't matter whether you talk to WebSense, which is their number is 75%, or Sophos, which is 90%. Most of the vendors out there will tell you the majority of infections are coming from legitimate websites. Okay, so the criminal will try and infect a legitimate website, and then when a user just goes and looks at that or looks in his favourites and goes to the site, then it's downloading the crimeware to that machine, and that crimeware doesn't care at that point who the user is, whether it's a home user, a small business, a medium-sized enterprise, or a large corporate. It doesn't matter. It's just getting pulled down. And we're actually seeing lots of techniques out there that are quite sophisticated. For example, we've seen code out there that will look at it and say, okay, have I infected you before? And if you've been infected already, it'll take a decision, well, I'm not going to bother infecting you a second time, but there's a good chance it's the IT department looking at me and trying to find out whether it came from me. And then secondly, can I infect you? So, you know, do you have vulnerabilities in your OS or your desktop, your applications that I can use? Because if I can't work trying to send it down to you, what's the point of sending you my bad code either? And then lastly, well, where are you coming from? So it's doing an IP lookup in the IP ranges from the net and saying, okay, well maybe these countries I don't want to send any code to because I can't make any money out of them. So obviously you can make money out of the UK, so we still get it. But also maybe it's looking at and saying, okay, well actually maybe I don't want to send any bad code to the US because quite a lot of the crawling farms are located in the US. So when they look at the reputation of sites, they look at my site and there's no bad code there because I don't send anything to the US. So the actual decision to send it out in the first place is very intelligent. And if you like, this is a return on investment model where they're paying lots of money for these vulnerabilities, putting these attacks together, and they're trying to protect and get as much money as possible from that infection rather than easily let it be found by a security company.
Tim, thank you for that update.
You're welcome. I hope, if anyone wants to visit our website, www.finjan.com, the other thing we have for home users, if they want to try and use this at home, is a product called Secure Browsing, which is free. It's a plug-in for your browser. And basically, when you do a search in the search engine, the results of the search engine, before you see them, get thrown out to our product on the internet. We look at it proactively to see if there's anything on those sites, and we send back a result to the browser so that the search engine will say, green, red, amber, this is the sort of stuff that's on these sites, whether it's good or bad to go to, and it's free.
That's great, brilliant.
Okay, you're welcome.
Thank you. Hello everyone, my name is Ben Chai. I'm the editor for securityvibes.com. If you've enjoyed this video or have any other comments to make, please do fill in the comment boxes and let us know what you think. Thank you.